गपशप के साथ तो एक कप चाय बनती है, मसाला चाय। इलायची, लौंग और दालचीनी, इसको कूट लें। उबलते पानी में डालें, इसके अंदर चाय की पत्ती और चीनी डालिए। बढ़िया मसाला चाय बनाने का मेरा एक छोटा सा राज है। ताजे दूध से बना रेनबो इवेपोरेटेड मिल्क। इसका रिच और क्रीमी टेस्ट चाय में जान डाल दे। ये हुई ना मसालेदार बात। रेनबो इवेपोरेटेड मिल्क, चाय का परफेक्ट मैच।
Rainbow Top Guns Season 2.
Hello and welcome to Top Guns. I'm your host, Shane Phillips, and I'm here in the smart and cozy Rainbow Room, getting ready to meet today's Top Gun. I have to be extra prepared because today's Top Gun is one of the world's leading banking CEOs. In fact, he's only one of 7 Indian bankers to be on the board of a Western financial institution. You may have guessed it. Today's guest is Mr. V. Shankar, Chief Executive Officer of Standard Chartered Bank.
Presented by Nokia, powered by Audi.
Shankar, welcome to Top Guns.
It's my pleasure.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you.
What is this individual like in elementary school or in preschool in his early days? Was he sitting quietly coloring between the lines, or were you ripping the wallpaper off the walls and driving the teachers crazy?
I was not an abnormal kid. I was a very normal person. I wouldn't put myself as a truant who was constantly troubling people, but I was just like any kid, pretty mischievous. Played a lot of sports, was good academically, pretty balanced.
When you say good academically, where did you sit on the kind of bell curve? Were you top of the class, top quartile, 50th?
Yeah, I would have been in the top 2 or 3.
Top 2 or 3. So you were very competitive even at a young age.
Yeah, I mean, I was reasonably competitive.
Well-rounded as well. I think you played sports, you played football, cricket, of course.
Tennis. So yes, I was absolutely mad about sports, just as much as I was about academics.
I think that's where you got one of your boyhood nicknames early on the tennis court as well, right?
Yes.
Is that Nukes, I believe?
Yeah, that's because I used to sport a Zapata mustache, which was John Newcomb's.
Ah, okay.
I thought he was one of my idols.
He was one of your idols?
Yeah, so I used to play a lot of tennis, and this was, I think, more at college rather than school.
Okay. And you ended up going to one of the top schools in India, the Indian Institute of Management.
Right.
But you didn't really want to go to IIM at all.
No, I was a purely accidental entrant into IIM, just as much as I'm an accidental banker, I would add. When I was in Loyola College in Madras, doing my BSc in physics, and what I wanted to do was really join the Indian government, the Indian Foreign Service or the Indian Administrative Service, and my parents had pretty much brainwashed me that was the honorable thing to do because they themselves came from the government.
That was the kind of highest status at the time in India as well, right? To be
yeah, it's what every bright person aspired to join. So that was why I was doing my BSc physics and probably would have gone on to do a master's in physics and enter the government service. But fate intervened. There was always a divine intervention somewhere in my life. And everybody in Loyola College at that time was taking this exam, entrance exam, for some exotic thing called the Indian Institutes of Management.
You're saying, what is this? It's not for me. But somehow you got lulled into it.
So it's a herd instinct. I mean, everybody around you is taking this exam and you say, let me go for it. And it's the first time I actually took a multiple choice exam in my life. Again, some preordained fate, I did get into IIM, and then life changed.
And then, right, you mentioned divine intervention actually, and is that really a key factor in someone's success? Do you need some luck to make it in life?
Absolutely. It's, I think, what Napoleon said, give me a lucky general over a smart one. You just need luck. Anyway.
Right. So you're a big believer in serendipity and fate, I guess.
Absolutely. But you just look at a PGA golf tournament. I mean, what separates the winner from the loser is often 1 or 2 strokes, and it's that putt which lips out of the putt or the putt which sinks, which makes a huge difference between the winner and the loser.
Right. So you go into IIM, and this is where it starts to change your mind. private sector starts to take a grip on you. Can you talk a little bit about that metamorphosis?
Shane, India was changing at that time. If you go back in India's history from 47 onwards, our first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, talked about the commanding heights of the economy, and it was more about public sector enterprises and large public sector role in the economy. But slowly starting the 60s, 70s, you see the evolution of the private sector, which of course blossomed a lot starting the 80s after Mr. Rajiv Gandhi became the Prime Minister and thereafter. So I am in the late 70s with a more of a corporate sector, private sector mentality taking hold in the country. Second, going back to my earlier point about wanting to join the government service, the pay differential between the private sector and the government sector was becoming dramatically wide. So some of the attractiveness of the government sector was diminishing.
Right, especially as you're taking your corporate finance course, you start to see the return on investment.
Exactly.
So interesting, right?
Exactly. My first job as branch manager was in Madras at the age of 27. Interestingly, my first employer was Standard Chartered Bank as well. I think my starting salary at Standard Chartered was 5 times what I would have earned if I had joined the government service, and was probably much more than what my father retired on. So wow. Here was the difference.
And the growth rate was fairly interesting, I'm sure, by the time you left Standard Chartered.
Absolutely.
So why did you join Bank of America?
Standard Chartered those days, at the higher echelons of the company, it was not very diverse. Mm-hmm. It was all British people at the top, even at the country level. Whereas the Bank of Americas and the cities, the American banks, I think in a sense led the way in terms of giving accelerated progress to locals. So that's why I joined Bank of America. The job was good. The chances of reaching the higher levels of the company were higher, and that's what led me there.
And you actually you practice what you preach, because the Bank of America 19-year plus career came to a spectacular end.
Right. I was doing well at Bank of America, and then we had a merger with Nations Bank, which was a regional bank based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. After the merger, most of the senior positions in the combined institution went to the people in Charlotte, which was quite understandable. But what it meant for me, sitting in Hong Kong, running the investment banking for Bank of America in Asia, and as the CEO of BA Asia, was I was getting less and less support from the head office. They were more interested in their business in America than the business internationally. And Asia was too far-flung an outpost for them to spend time on. Mm. The clients that I had nurtured, brought them to a certain level of relationship with the institution, were suddenly feeling, are we there for them or not? Mm-hmm.
And then your personal reputation now is on the line as well.
Personal reputation, but more importantly also the reputation of the institution. Because at the end of the day, you build a reputation for yourself and the institution is one and the same because you can deliver. Mm-hmm. So if you can't deliver, you're not going to go anywhere.
What was the deal that was the last straw and you said, that's it, I'm not putting up with this anymore?
Yeah, life's too short, need to pack your bags. Moment came when we had to renege on a large deal where we were not legally committed, but probably spiritually committed. When we had to get out of it, I said, look, we can't simply do this. It just goes against my value system. And this simply was not in line with that value system. So one great thing about Standard Chartered, where I joined, is we are absolutely client-centric and client-focused.
Well, that's a great example of having the courage of your convictions. Most people go along to get along, and you start to realize that there's a little something more in V. Shankar.
You realize, you get confidence. You fight against the best, you compete against the best. You realize you're not that dumb, that you're as good or as bad as them. So then you get confidence. So, winning is a lot about confidence. And I've always believed that if you come to work with the attitude that today could potentially be my last day at work, but I want to be fired for having done the right thing, that's okay. Mm-hmm. You should have that confidence.
focus means a lot of things, and you guys have been focused for over 100 years.
It's about focus on risk management, focus on capital, focus on liquidity, and by being true to the basics of banking. That's all the secret recipe of Standard Chartered is.
Presented by Nokia, powered by Audi.
Around the world, millions of people are switching to Nokia Lumia for the best smartphone photography in low light. For easy wireless charging. And for city lens, to explore the world around them. Time to switch.
The Audi A8, always first class.
Rainbow Top Guns Season 2.
We are here in the largest trading floor in the Middle East in Standard Chartered Bank, Dubai. Shankar, you are in Bank of America in Hong Kong. 3 days later, you're in Standard Chartered Bank with a whole new challenge in front of you. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I joined Standard Chartered to start the corporate finance business, which didn't exist in 2001 in the bank. And what did I mean by corporate finance? It's about everything from starting a mergers and acquisition advisory practice.
Okay, so this is sometimes also called investment banking.
It is called investment banking. So it's about mergers and acquisition.
Which is if a company buys another company or sells.
It's advising them, helping them raise the money. It's about helping companies raise money in capital markets, from the bond markets. To make an acquisition. To make an acquisition or otherwise for general corporate purposes.
Okay, so you don't want to take a loan. You can issue a bond.
Correct, in the capital markets.
Okay. And the investment bank would do that?
The investment bank would do that. It's about project finance, which is about financing a project, large project, building a large petrochemical plant.
Which can also, because some banks put this now under project finance.
Yes.
But it's also investment banking.
It is also investment banking. We also had start a leasing practice, which is about people don't want to own the asset. They want to lease an asset, and we would do leasing of aircraft.
Big ticket leasing.
Big ticket leasing. So this is all the business that I started.
And this was in 2001?
And some of these businesses were gradually built out around 2002 to 2004. It was also, we started a very interesting business, which is investing in private equity.
Direct investment.
Direct investments into our clients.
Shankar, you joined the bank in 2001. Now it's 2012. The bank has had 9 years of record profits. How do you do it?
I think by focusing, by being disciplined, and by being true to the basics of banking. That's all the secret recipe of Standard Chartered is.
Right, but focus means a lot of things, and you guys have been focused for over 100 years on both markets, products, clients. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. We're very focused on our geographies, which is essentially Asia, Africa, Middle East. We are highly client-focused. Anything we do in the bank is on the back of, does it add value to our clients? And we've also been very, very disciplined in terms of not straying into areas that we really don't understand, whether geographically or product-wise. And when I said staying true to the basics of banking, it's about focus on risk management, focus on capital, focus on liquidity. It's all of these things, the very simple things that make a bank successful. And that's what we've been good at.
Right, but is it by design or is it by chance? Because, 150 years ago, someone couldn't say, in 2000 and beyond, the markets to be in are Middle East, Asia, Africa, but, that's where the bank was 150 years ago.
Right. I mean, obviously, some smart people made the decision 150 years ago to be in these markets, which in today's terms, are the best markets to be in. It is absolutely the epicenter of the world's fastest growing trade and investment corridors. So as I always joke, some of these guys went into some of these markets 150 years too early, but not a day too late. Now, the design bit is actually designed because after the Lehman crisis, there were a lot of banks we could have bought in the West because they were very attractive, very cheap, and offered to us. But we stayed very true to our mantra of focusing on Asia, Africa, Middle East.
Shankar, so that's where Standard Chartered Bank invests its resources. Where do you invest when you're not sitting in the corner office?
Real estate, stocks, and some art. My wife and I love art, so we've been collecting for the last almost 30 years. So it's a decent collection.
Well, I personally can't wait to see your art collection. Coming up after the break, we'll visit Shankar at his home, we'll meet his wife, and see his personal art collection, so stay tuned.
It's an eclectic collection from all over the world. We travel a lot, we have lived in a lot of places, so this pretty much represents where we have traveled to, what we like.
What's the secret to a successful marriage?
Very simple. Just listen to your wife all the time. She's always right.
Presented by Nokia, powered by Audi, supported by the Intelligent SME, official radio partners Suno 1024 and Super 94.7 FM.
Around the world, millions of people are switching to Nokia Lumia. For the best smartphone photography in low light. For easy wireless charging. And for city lens, to explore the world around them. Time to switch.
The Audi A8, always first class.
पापा,
बोलो।
मम्मा बहुत लकी है, आपको तो सब कुछ बनाना आता है।
वो तो है।
पर पापा, अगर लड़के वाले मुझे देखने आए
तो क्या?
मुझे तो एक कप चाय भी ठीक से बनानी नहीं आती।
एक काम करते हैं, चाय से शुरुआत करते हैं। मेरा एक छोटा सा राज है, ताजे दूध से बना रेनबो इवेपोरेटेड मिल्क। इसका रिच और क्रीमी टेस्ट चाय में जान डाल दे। बाय द वे, लड़का कौन है?
किसी दिन चाय पे बुलाऊंगी।
रेनबो इवेपोरेटेड मिल्क, चाय का परफेक्ट मैच।
Rainbow Top Guns Season 2.
Art has been a passion for both Shankar and myself. It started with Indian art and it grew to Chinese art and African art and now Middle Eastern art. And lately we are collecting Pakistani art. And I also do a little bit of art myself. I started with ceramics and pottery when I was in US. And I make a few pieces. I still have a studio in Singapore. And here in Dubai, I've started going to this art center at Jumeirah. I rent the studio and work there half a day. And so I plan to have an exhibition on, my pieces at some point.
Shankar, what a great home you have and what a great art collection you have, over 200 pieces. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Thank you. Both my wife, Sunita, and I are passionate about art. It's an eclectic collection from all over the world. We travel a lot, we have lived in a lot of places, so this pretty much represents where we have traveled to, what we like. But really the person at the home who makes the final decision on art is my wife, Sunita, so she's the one you should talk to about it.
And you've been married for, what, over 3 decades now?
82, so yeah, almost 3 decades.
What's the secret to a successful marriage?
Very simple. Just listen to your wife all the time. She's always right.
Where did you first meet?
Met in Bombay. I was working and she was studying. we were introduced by a friend of ours, common friend of ours, so we met at a party.
Okay, was it love at first sight, or was it something, was it a slow burn?
I think it may have been for me, but it was definitely not for her because I had to work hard.
Okay,
She made me sweat.
Yes?
She made me sweat.
Okay, so what was your strategy? How did you win her over?
Just the same strategy I adopt with clients, which is work hard at convincing them that the value proposition was good.
And then now both of you have a beautiful son who's doing well, I believe.
Absolutely. I mean, he's been our biggest success story. He's in the movie business. He's a producer in Hollywood, and touch wood, he's doing exceptionally well.
Both of us are very happy about what he's chosen. He's doing what he likes to do, and he's followed his passion. And that's been our philosophy in life, to do what we like. And we believe that if somebody does what he or she likes, that person will always be successful.
When you look at a leader, generally that individual has certain values, and he becomes the leader because he holds those values higher than most anyone else. And then integrity is the tool in which you actually know what you value. So in fact, it's a critical component to developing that leadership competency.
You know, what are we as human beings if we are not a collection of values? Or what are we as a company if we are not a collection of values? So leadership, in my mind, is equally about the ability to be a bit like an eagle, the ability to swoop and soar. You should be able to operate at a 30,000-foot level, and then you should have the ability to also, when the occasion demands it, get down to the ground and get really your hands dirty and be very hands-on. You also, as a leader, need to be a bit like an elephant, i.e. pachydermis. You need to have a thick skin, the ability to withstand criticism. You need to do that. To my mind, also being a leader is about being authentic, genuine. Don't pretend to be who you're not. It's about being very decisive. It's about having the emotional intelligence. It's about having integrity. And today, in a very globalized world where all of us are very multinational in our movements, it's also very, very important to have cultural flexibility and adaptability. What works in London may not work in Cairo, and what works in Cairo may not work in Singapore. Also, I think it's very important for you to spot talent and nurture talent and develop talent, because ultimately the biggest test of all of us as a leader is what's our succession? How many leaders have we bred? How many leaders have we developed?
So that's the level that you're operating at. You're dealing with countries, you're dealing with, in a global context, you're interacting with presidents, with royalty, as well as the working class as well. But who's really been the most impressive person, or some of the people you've actually learned the most off, because you've sat with such an interesting mix?
I meet lots and lots of interesting people. So it's very difficult for me to pinpoint to one particular businessman or industrialist who I'd say is my hero. But if I were to just pick one person who's impressed me a lot with the breadth of his intellect, his charisma, his emotional intelligence, his IQ, it would be Bill Clinton.
They say that he's one of the most intelligent presidents.
He's very intelligent. The other thing that you can't be but impressed with him is his breadth of knowledge. You can talk to him about finance, you can talk to him about politics, of course that you would expect that, but then you can also talk to him about horse racing or tennis or athletics or the different makes of shoes, running shoes, and you're an expert on all of that.
Right. Is there any interesting books you're reading now, or where are you actually, as a self-learner, driving that knowledge from?
The most interesting book I recently read was Neil Ferguson's book on civilizations, which talks about the history of development of many of these places. That's a good read. But a lot of my learning also takes place because I meet a lot of interesting people. So I've always believed that if I spend 1 hour with somebody who is a world expert on something, you can learn as much as you can by reading 1,000 pages over 10 hours.
Right. Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for being on Top Guns.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure spending the day with you, learning more about your bank and about your family and your lovely art collection.
It's been fun for me too, Shane. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you're enjoying the episodes thus far. but more importantly, I hope they're inspiring you. This is your host, Shane Phillips, signing off.
I don't think I'm fatalistic, but you got to give your best at whatever you do. And then there will always be extraneous forces which are uncontrollable. You can do what is within your hand, the controllable, the known knowns. The unknown unknowns, you don't know. And that's what you call it, a black swan or a tail event or whatever else in finance. You know, you need to be prepared for it, but you can't do very much when it happens.